I click the links to join the channel here over at Subscribestar. So the Robin Hood director melts down over series negative reception. Claim show is being review bombed by ISTAPHOBIC people, which might be true, but it's also true that many things are possible all at once. It could be that the show is just plot twist. The show is just crap. So let me give the short version of this because I just got out of a little bit of surgery and I'm in a wee bit of pain. Hashtag send painkillers and a Pedialyte. So this dude makes a Robin Hood woke remake that nobody is going to watch. Like that was never on the table. When they sit down with the script or they start, message boarding this thing out. I can't imagine them being so delusional echo chamber that they think, oh yeah, this is going to catch on, like the Vagrant Queen type of show. It's like, yeah, this is for a really small audience who, like, they're not enough to sustain. It's like, so why are we doing it? Yeah, that's a good question. That's a good question more people should ask. Like, if it doesn't make financial sense, it feels like somebody is subsidizing this for political purposes. Yeah, I should probably keep pulling at that thread. So the antagonists, like, just looking at this guy's face, he's making Robin Hood. Who do you think the antagonists and protagonists are going to be? It's like if you've been paying attention, you already know what's up. And it is good to see more normies are kind of awakening to this kind of stuff. The antagonists are, of course, blonde and red-haired because they want to dehumanize and degrade the beautiful people of the light, people like you and I. And we're awesome. We are not the problem in any situation. So there's really too much of this stuff to ignore. The original Robin Hood was a bunch of English people, if I remember right. There might have been a Frenchman in there somewhere. So keep that in focus, where the protagonists and the antagonists were both the same tribe. The story works better that way because it's not spreading focused hatred against one group of people. Here, and the people look like you and I. But in this idiot's version, the protagonists are non-Euro and the antagonists are Euro. You see the problem with this negative portrayal of European people? Because it's an overrepresentation. That's the definition of racism. Literally, all he had to do was make everyone non-white. Then there'd be no differential of hatred that way. That's why his show failed, because it's not organic. It's a political hit piece, and we've seen it you see it in every single thing. Anytime there's an ad for one of these woke shows, there are a ton of people who are like on YouTube and Twitter who there's a based community that is growing rapidly, and we're moving the window a little bit to the right. It's just fan-freaking-tastic. So there's a ton of people who are saying exactly the same kind of stuff I'm saying. Oh, hey, it's like Disney just had some kind of animation that came out, and it was every friggin' cliche. And people go in the comment section, and they point out these comments like, oh, so let me guess, the main bad guy is going to be a blonde man bad, and the non-blonde character is going to be the good character. It's like, my gosh, how could you possibly predict that? Because it's like 100 out of 100 over the past 10 years. And you can go back further and further, and you start to see more and more of this. You're like, movies have been always ridiculous. Like, you got to go back to the 40s and 50s to see stuff that wasn't crazy. It all kind of happens in the mid 60s, I think. Actually, I'm going to do a video for Odyssey and BitChute on the roller coaster theme park, amusement park rides. This chick wrote this book called something like Race, Riots, and Roller Coasters, and it's a friggin' fantastic, but it's like an honest look at amusement parks and what happened in the 60s, but that's kind of for Odyssey, BitChute, Subscribestar. Heaven forbid somebody go over on that Subscribestar. So every single show, video game, comic is anti-white. It's just boring when they made her red hair. Red hair is the minority of the minority. It's the world's minority, and they think, oh, it's okay to hate these people. Why would you think that? Oh, because we hate these people. Yeah. The more people are awakening to this. That's why I make these kind of videos. I honestly do think I'm doing the Lord's work, even if it's like $1.72 a video. It's worth it to me. Anyway, so it's the comic books I get. Thank you for that. The Batman was fantastic. So it's just boring when even before I looked at the antagonists, I knew that they're going to look like me. They're going to be my tribe, and they always are. Why not make them all brown? Because if that was the case, they would not bother making the movie if they had to do that. It just never would have got funded if that was a script. If that was what he came up with, then one of the money men, and the thing is, that's a good script. You're like, it's all one tribe of people that makes sense because so was the original Robin Hood. You're just swapping it out. That would be fine. That would be a race swap that would actually make sense because you're not focusing hatred on black or blonde. It's just you're treating everyone equally. They don't want to be treated equally. That was like 60s, 70s kind of dialectic. So one of the money men who were in charge of this movie company would simply have suggested, yeah, why don't we do a slight modification so the bad guys are blonde or red haired and fair skinned type of people. The thing is, this idiot director and people like him are so stupid that they think they're stunning and brave. They think they're fighting the power and sticking it to the man. I mean, a lot of it's probably some marching powder from South America is kind of giving them this kind of stuff. But they're telling the same stupid story over and over again. It doesn't matter what medium they use. Comics and pocketbooks and movies or video games, it's like you see the same stuff, and finally people are starting to check out of it and check into the alt community. So the whole conversation that I just had never occurs to them. Like, how would you think other people would feel? And they just don't get that. If you ask them, how do you think these European people feel when they're portrayed in a negatively hateful manner? And more importantly, why exactly would they pay to see this portrayal? Because again, we know we're awesome. Like, we know we're not the problem. This is just hatred. Because in the woke mind, everything is the fault of these blonde people, and that these are the perpetual victims. We know this isn't true. More so, the opposite might be, because European people are not making movies that portray non-whites in a negative manner, because they obviously don't have the power to get those movies made. And even if they did make a movie about Chicago drive-bys and the endless cycle of pointless violence, the same thing would probably happen. People would just get burned out on it. If you made a movie about South America and bringing in pharmaceuticals and how it affected Chicago and Detroit and that kind of, or Oakland, that kind of stuff, and the dealers of it and the users of it, and like everyone's suffering from it, there'd be no white people involved in that story at all. Even the cops would mostly be non-white. The Soros-appointed DAs and judges wouldn't be white either. They're just not in the story. But they're not going to make that kind of movie. No, you understand. We have to make the South American drug dealer blonde. It's like that's just not what they look like. Anyway, thing is, people already know America is FUBAR. They're looking for a little escapism, and mainstream movies, video games, comic books are not giving it to them. So when I was doing this, I was listening to this super based Odyssey chat, and there was a few hundred people in the live stream because it's free speech and it's a counter narrative to the mainstream anti-white cancer. But the thing is, there's a ton of these kind of Odyssey, Rumble, Shing, and maybe even Cozy has got live stream, and then DLive and stuff. These channels are popping up where it's like Comicsgate. Comicsgate was able to pop up because the mainstream story was so insanely bad. So I listened to Odyssey. I'd rather listen to somebody with 100 people in the chat. And honestly, this guy made a couple $100 in the hour he was online. He did pretty well. And that is a weird thing about Odyssey live streams in the base community. Once you kind of get the rhythm of it, you're going to make you can make like over $100 an hour talking about the stuff that you were talking about for free. It's going to take a few months to get that rhythm down, but once you do it, it's like some people make, like Black Pilled. What's the guy's name? Devin Stack. He does really well on Odyssey. So the thing is, there's nothing on the mainstream that is worth watching, but it's by watching Odyssey, Shing, Rumble that you get to see a 180-degree shift. It's amazing what free speech can do once you take the fetters off. Once you start washing off the filters of political correctness, you wonder, why don't more people just leave the Matrix? Anyway, so this guy cannot take criticism because for him, his whole life, he's always had that shield of istaphobicism. He's never had to stop and engage in an actual argument, a polite back and forth, and think through, issue, rule, analysis, conclusion, and think through every little aspect of it. I'm guessing that that has never happened for him because this cultural Bolshevik movement has been going on for a very long time, more than 100 years. I don't think he's ever had to put himself in his opponent's position and try to honestly understand the opponent's side. And I don't know if he could. It's like imagining the apple in your mind. I don't know. Some people just can't do it, and if they can't do it, it's like, oh, it's just different. They just have a slightly different worldview. It's like seeing, like bees are seen in a different end of the spectrum. Anyway, some people really cannot empathize and sympathize. It's not that they're so angry or they're so brainwashed. I don't think it's that they choose not to do it. I literally think a lot of people can't do that. Almost like borderline personality or sociopathic, not schizophrenic, sociopathic, psychopathic. Um, there's some part of them that's just missing where they just can't sympathize or empathize with other people. They can't um, like emulate someone else's argument. The old adage, if you don't know your opponent's argument, you don't know your own. And whenever you're doing debate or rhetoric in school, that's the critical thing they used to teach people is know your opponent's argument and be able to sit down and argue both sides. It was like you do it with the hottest of hot topics, whether it would be abortion or whatever. You'd argue both sides before you chose. And the thing is, you could randomly assign people, and they do their best job. It's like being a defense attorney. You have to understand the concept of due process, not that you're to get the best bringing of these facts to light. And it's like it sharpens steel sharpens steel, but you have to practice, and that's what all this kind of stuff is. But nowadays, I say all the time, kids are taught what to think, not how to think. They really are. Look at the kids' classrooms today with all the rainbow stuff. Is that if the kids there's a group of kids that say no, we reject all this and here's our opinions on it and we want to see different flags, you think they would be given a fair hearing? You think their side, when the teacher's teaching some kind of woke nonsense about all this kind of whatever the BLT type of stuff they're teaching, and like a significant portion of kids are objecting to this kind of stuff, what do you think the teacher's response would be? And the thing is, at first, like those kids were in deep trouble, but nowadays they're actually kids are protesting for to have people are going in the wrong bathroom kind of thing. So kids will walk out and protest, and actually they had to make bathrooms by your biological sex. So it is good to see that some of the kids are becoming more and more based. Anyway, so for him, any rejection of his argument has to fit in that binary of istaphobicism because there's no alternative for his worldview. Anyway, like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you guys all next episode.